boost your team performance and drive your business growth. Wherever you're a seasoned business owner or you're just a manager who has a single employee, this video is gonna help you a lot. Learn practical communication skills that can significantly improve your team's collaboration, increase productivity, and propel your business and your company forward. Discover how team communication not only can boost the efficiency of your work, but can also contribute to achieving better goals and higher profits. Ready to get your leadership skills to the next level? This is where you start. Today, we'll be exploring mostly about the communication skills of you and the employees that you have. This will help you grow as a business owner or as a manager to make sure that the sum of your team is bigger than the parts of it. If you're a manager or you're a boss, the hard truth is that you're a facilitator of other people's success. You are no longer in charge of what exactly the people who work with you can do. You're only there to help them, guide them to be more efficient, more better versions of themselves. You are no longer able to control every single move they do. You can only suggest, you can give them directions, but that's about it. This, of course, spills into the way you should communicate. You're in charge of making them happy. So, let's see how you can do. The most famous thing I always say to new managers or people who just get into the job is that no matter what happened, when there is a big success, it's always a success of your team, the workers, the people who did the job. But if it's a failure, it's wholeheartedly only your fault. And that's the biggest truth and the biggest issue with the position of a manager, product manager, project manager, CEO, or C-level, is because you are no longer congratulated and you no longer should feel the success is solely belonging to you. You did your job, of course, and that's our point of talking about this in this video, but you should never try to take all the credit for yourself or don't give the credit to your workers. Why does this have anything to do with communication? Well, whenever you communicate, make sure you take a selfless approach and fixate on the key metrics that can actually drive the whole team together to the goal. So, for example, if there is a talk about something and you cannot think of why exactly are we talking about this has nothing to do with the key metrics that can drive us to the success, you drop the communication, you say, okay, let's go and talk about something that's relevant. You always have the KPIs in mind, because if you don't, the project fails, you are in fault. The second part is when you communicate, try to always be encouraging, try to always be helpful, ask if there is any help needed, and if there will be some bottlenecks that potentially could be on the road, so you can deal with them first. Also, try to ask for a step-by-step way of how the person would deal with this issue, how he would approach it, and how would he do and make sure that it goes to the end goal. For example, if you have experience, you could help. If you don't, you could get somebody from the other team to help him do the job correctly, so you don't have to micromanage him. By being a manager, you're not actually doing the task yourself, you're actually facilitating the people to do the task correctly. This means that if you're working with coders and you're a coder, you're gonna struggle at first. You are not gonna do the work. You're not gonna micromanage them. Yes, some people might work worse than you, and they will only do 80% of the task or 80% as good as you would, right? But for example, if you're managing 10 people, they would do 10 tasks at 80%. In the same time, you would do one task at 100%. That's worse, right? You have to understand it, and when you communicate, you have to also be fair with them. People make mistakes. People do work sometimes worse, but that doesn't mean that they're bad people or they work worse. Be a good person and a good manager to improve and help them grow. And another thing is you should always listen instead of talking. You should let other people talk. Yes, sometimes you need to tell them what direction they should be going, but in most cases, a company or you as a boss paying people to know what exactly they're doing. That is why it's incredibly important to let people do the job themselves without micromanaging. They should feel first, purpose, second, mastery, and third, autonomy. That are the three key intrinsic motivators that make people happy and make people do the best work they can. For example, if you're a manager, you don't want your boss to micromanage your every step, right? You want to be autonomous, you want to be happy, and you want to do the best work you can. The same if you own a company. If you have investors, would you want your investors to micromanage your every step? Probably not. So don't do the same with your workers. And when you communicate, make sure you don't be passive aggressive, asking what exactly is happening, what are they doing. They know probably better. Just give them KPIs, their direct relationship, direct responsibilities, and see from there. The second part is to prepare for meetings, to give agenda beforehand and guide the process of communication. Be prepared for any meeting and all meetings. You should always ask a question if a meeting could have been in the mail. You should always ask if in the meeting could have been an email. And even before looking and scheduling this meeting, look at the schedule. Maybe you can ask these questions in an email, try to get some responses faster and without wasting everyone's time. That's the most important thing to know about communicating and scheduling meetings. If you're not prepared for a meeting and you're trying to wing it, people will notice, and people do not like when people waste their time and actually have a bad meeting that doesn't actually lead anywhere. If that happened, say the truth, reschedule, or try to give someone else topics to discuss, because usually meetings can take 3 to 4 questions into 100 questions. So always be open and truthful with your workers. The third thing is that leaders are always are very leading by example. If you're doing bad job, you're lazy, you're not communicating correctly, you're shouting at people, guess what? All of your employees, your workers, your colleagues will do the same as you with their workers. It's extremely important to understand that whatever you do at the workplace and you're a leader, people will follow your lead. It's probably not noticeable at first, but after months, half a year, you will notice that everyone is trying to copy you in your department, or if you're a big boss in the whole company. It's very noticeable. And so when you look at the employee, you could tell who their boss is, how he talks and what he does. So lead by example. Make sure you're communicating and talking to people. You're doing the best way you could, because guess what? This person could be talking to his colleague or his employee in the future and doing exactly the same thing. Try to keep yourself together. The fourth tip would be to ask these questions that I'm going to show you before having a meeting. Because these questions are really important. They set the tone for the meeting, they set the tone for communication in general. And if, for example, you don't ask yourself these questions, employees will ask each other these questions, and this will not be pretty. The first question, why are you communicating? The second question, what is this purpose of this communication? Is it a person? Is it a meeting? Is it like an audience? Who are you talking to? Who are you communicating with? The third thing is, what is the goal of the communication? What are you trying to achieve? Another question is, what should the audience achieve after the communication? Do you want to get your message across? Do you want them to work better? Do you want something to be pushed back? Do you want to change the deadline? What is the purpose of your communication? And the last thing is, what's the best format of your communication to achieve your goal? Maybe a better way is an email. Maybe a better way is to record a video like a Loom to share your thoughts. Maybe a meeting is required. And maybe one-on-one is better to achieve your goal. Think about what is your end goal and schedule and change the meeting based on that. And the fifth, the last tip, is to keep your promises. It's an incredibly simple tip in communicating, that when you talk to someone, make sure if you said something, you wrote it down and you did it, or you did it straight away, because people remember, people rely on you. And if you're not reliable, people hate managers like that. They hate communicating with them. They hate that when they talk with you and they say something, they know this is never going to happen, so they never do their job as well correctly. So make sure to always be reliable, good and great manager who does the things he says. That also is a case for errors. If you, for example, made an error, don't just sit back and think no one will notice. Take responsibility and always be on top of your game. If you made an error, tell your boss, tell your colleagues, tell everyone, because otherwise it's just gonna spiral out of control, and at some point you will be full of lies that no one really likes and everyone will know it. It's the worst case scenario for you. And the bonus tip is for our remote workers to communicate with them. Being remote is an easy way for workers to check out and disengage. Be deliberate and intentional by giving a role to other people in communicating. Making sure that other people talk is incredibly important. Ask questions, use polling, use tools in Zoom, in Google, in anywhere you talk by engaging them. Think about creative ways to engage them, set themes for the meetings, and do things that actually can be very, very good for your team. Make sure that the next time you are communicating, you're using all the tools you can, because people who work with you will notice and will improve themselves if you do the things correctly. Communicating is a very important thing in the workforce, and not enough people are talking about this, because everything that comes out of communicating is probably better than doing a solo work. So next time you're in a situation where you can communicate, maybe use some tips. Make sure that you're always true to yourself and you're happy and passionate about the work you do. And I hope to see you soon. Like, subscribe, and enjoy other videos. Maybe you would like this one.